I got a call from my buddy Patrick Shivers and all. You've seen me do some video with him before, and I had talked to him about doing some tailgate talk. He said, "You mind bringing me something from the John Deere place?" I said, "I don't mind." So I went by and picked this up, and that's small town for you. I just walk in and say, "I'm here to pick up something from Patrick." He puts it on his account. I walk out. Here he comes now. He's been out there planting something. It looks like some type of vegetable crop to me, but we'll find out. A lot of business gets taken care of. A lot of the world's problems get solved right by Tailgate down here. You know what I mean? I wanted to talk to you about, everybody is coming in the store and talking about farmers got it bad right now. You know what I mean? Like it's rough, you know, and I know a lot of the answers to this, but I was wanting to get your perspective on it.
Well, the commodity prices now. So what we get paid for corn, for example, or peanuts, or soybeans or cotton. The peanuts are about 2/3 the value that they were in the 1980s.
Now in the 1980s, by the way, I used to farm with my dad. My dad came up farming, and I farmed for a little while on my own. We had the quota system.
That's right.
Explain that for a second, because I don't know that I fully understood it back in the day.
With quota, you'd only get, so with the quota system, you could bank on getting about $750 to $800 a ton.
Okay.
For the peanuts that you had quota for.
Now, and that was assigned to the land.
Yeah.
Early on, like I don't know when.
And you could acquire more quota. Let's say you weren't fulfilling all your quota, or you want to get out of farming, or you just want to make some extra money. You could sell your quota to me, and then I'd have your.
And
quota.
It would transfer property?
No, just the quota.
Okay.
Just the quota.
Okay.
The quota's not attached to the land. You
but
own
the
quota.
Government assigned it. Is that right?
Initially, and then farmers all got quota.
Okay.
And then they could sell their quota.
It was a government assistance type program.
Yeah. It guaranteed you $750, $800 for your peanuts. $700, $800 for your peanuts.
And back then, I was farming with my dad, you know, in the mid '80s and stuff as a teenager, you know, at that time. And I remember we farmed dry land, you know, and we talked about meeting our quota and different things like that. We had some irrigated, some dry land, and back then, you know, there's basically tons per acre, you know, or pounds per acre, you know, because it'll get down to the very pound, you know. But we always thought if we made 1.5 tons, you know, 3,000 pounds to the acre on dry land, we were going to do really good.
That's right.
That was great, you know.
Right.
And back then, people who had irrigation, they were maxing out at 2 tons, and occasionally you'd hear a farmer maybe doing 2.5 tons. But again, we were getting paid for it, you know.
Yeah.
But go back to, I interrupted you.
So
you know.
Today, most of the farmers this year are getting 5 1/4, so $525 a ton.
And back then you were getting 700,
750 to 800
Okay.
in the 80s. In the 80s, one of these right here was about 10 grand.
A truck, yeah. That's
Today,
right.
today they're 80.
That's right. That's right.
The tractor, today's tractor's about $250,000. Back then they were about 50 to 70.
I bought, and it was an old tractor at the time. I bought a 30-20 tractor, and y'all got some 40-20s y'all still use.
And 30-20.
And a 30-20. I bought a 30-20 back then for around $6,000. It was used, you know, whatever. And I sold it for like $9,000, you know.
I think they're bringing about 12 right now.
So a 30-20, if y'all, hopefully we'll pop up a picture of a 30-20 and all. It'd be nice to show that original. And you could do a lot of work back then with it, but you can't do the amount of acreage, you know, that they're doing now. So one reason these tractors are getting larger, because y'all are doing, I mean, everybody's having to do more
The
acreage.
margin got thinner.
Okay.
And so you had to do more quantity. So instead of having 100 farmers in the county, you got 4, because you got to go over a lot of land because the margin is so thin, razor thin margin. And this year the margin's upside down. There is no margin. Corn, the bank told me pre-season, they said if you make 200 bushel corn and you get it $5 delivered, then you will lose just a little bit of money. Well, just a little bit.
A little bit of money.
The current price of corn is $3.91. And 200 bushels is well above local average.
Yeah.
And then it costs 40 cents.
That's what I was gonna say. 200 bushels back in the day. Me and my dad never made 200 bushels. I mean, because we were dryland farmers and all, and so obviously with dryland, what does dryland corn get now? I mean, you're not gonna get.
No, a good year you may get 140, 160 is where you're going to be at, maybe.
Okay.
And you could be at 0.
That's right. That's right. According to where you're at, and if you got rain or didn't get rain.
Last year I did 240 out here at my house on corn, but it was an optimal year. We had a lot of rain, and the main thing that decreases our yield is heat units at pollination.
Yeah.
And because we had the rain, the temperature was a little cooler. We had a good year. This year, I kept it wet, it's irrigated, and I made about 190. Just a few degrees difference in temperature, and it took me from 240 to 190.
Oh, wow.
You know, just a few different degrees at pollinating.
So it's a huge risk, a huge gamble when you go into it, which that was one of the things and one of the reasons I got out of farming is I didn't really like that gamble. You know, each year, I don't know, I was having a hard time sleeping at night, you know, knowing that it might or might not rain. And I tried to get my dad to go to irrigation, thought that'd be the solving answer, you know, but there's been lots of irrigation farmers that have gone out of business since back then.
It costs a lot of money.
It does.
My monthly irrigation bill is strong.
You don't want to share that number?
When I don't use it.
Oh, okay.
So when I don't use it, January, February, December, which I'm ordering vegetables this winter, but typically it's not on during the winter.
Yeah.
I pay $1,000 a month for the service, not even using it. Just the meter charges. Just the meter charges is $1,000. During the summer, it's about a pickup truck a month. Not a new pickup truck, but you can go buy a pickup truck a month.
That's right.
For what we irrigate.
Putting into it, and then you're not getting that price. Now, one thing that you as viewers might be confused by is y'all go to, you know, whatever store you might, you know, mention, you know, that sells corn, you know, and you buy this bag of corn and you might be paying $8 or $9 a bag. I saw some the other day in the grocery store, it was $9.50 a bag, and it wasn't even in a good bag. I think we're somewhere around $8 or something like that right now, a little less, in a good bag that, you know, even if it rains on it. So that farmer, in particular, Dean's corn, he grows his own corn. He has $1 million facility or more that bags it all up, puts it in a nice bag. I mean, you got to get more money.
You got to get specialized to stay in business now.
That's right. So you've mentioned peanuts are down, corn, you know, certainly down.
Peanuts is the only thing that's at a break even or slightly above break even.
So really, and honestly, I was talking to the guy that gave me this hat and all. He's saying that, you know, peanuts aren't necessarily way off. His input, his input, he feels like input cost is what is a lot of the problem, because you're paying so much more now for, you know, fertilizer and for equipment and all of these different things.
$5.25, $5.50 peanuts is not good, but it's not as bad if your inputs are lower.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's still not a good price.
Great. And is that because of just supply, like that? In other words,
the main factor that affects the farm is cost of energy. You wouldn't think so, but the cost of energy is our main expense. So diesel and electricity, that is the number one price. Affects everything. It affects the cost of fertilizer. It affects the cost of ripping the field. It affects every single thing we do.
Yeah.
So when fuel goes up,
that's right,
50 cents, that just took out a substantial portion of our margin. So you wouldn't think, hey, gas is up 75 cents or gas went down $1. That's not that big of a deal when you're talking about driving to work and back, but when you're talking about making your living off of diesel fuel and electricity, that's a huge deal.
When we first drove up, we were talking, you know, and you said you had planted carrots this morning. So Patrick, his idea is that he needs to be able to try to make money year round versus like with a lot of the farmers around here, they pretty much base everything on cotton and peanuts and corn, soybeans, and maybe some wheat occasionally. That's about the main crops though around here. But you're saying carrots, what else
anything,
you got?
So it ain't just like I grow on average 14 or 15 crops a year. It's not just finding new crops to grow, it's also specializing. So some farmers do custom harvesting. Or
that's right.
You're talking about the Dean Farms
that's
down
right.
there
that's right.
Sells the corn into waterproof bags. I mean, you got to specialize. I've turned my corn this year into grits and cornmeal.
Oh, and that's another...
because there's a lot more dollars in a bushel of grits than it is in a bushel of chicken feed. And most of the corn in the Southeast goes to chicken feed. So you got to improve your product. So that's why I'm doing that. I'm taking the corn and turning it into
something completely different.
Into grits or cornmeal, selling it direct to end consumer.
That's right.
So, and I also sell deer corn direct to end consumer.
That's right. Yeah, and so he's actually, and we don't care, we're friends, and not only that, we're a small community. So he's actually a competitor of mine in a sense. but we're selling the same product, corn, but we sell it in the bag and it's cleaned and it's this and that and the other. And some farmers are like, you know what, I want to buy a whole trailer load. And we will actually say, hey, let me give you some numbers of some farmers around here. And Patrick's a good friend. We'll say, hey, Patrick, you got some corn ready? And they'll go out with their own side dump trailer and pick it up. Or
I feel calling up yesterday.
He filled up, yeah. So you feel calling up yesterday. Good
Colin had one of those deer feeder filler upper things, y'all. That new trailer thing.
That's what
y'all
we're gonna
have?
start calling it at the store. We're gonna put the item number, deer filler upper things, you know, whatever. But we got another video on that. Make sure you go back and watch that. But then, without getting real political, because I'm not here to tell you guys how to vote or whether to be a Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or any of those other things, but you know, there's got to be a fix to things like this, like the prices of tractors and trucks. And what is your input on that, if you don't mind share? And again, you know, we're not trying to get political, but what do you think?
If you print money, there's more of it, therefore it's worth less.
So you think a lot of it is that
inflation is caused by printing too much money?
Yeah,
and it's very, very basic. You print a heap of money, it devalues the currency.
Yeah.
Gold is rare, therefore gold's worth a lot. Yeah. So if you make your paper money hyper available, print a lot of it and raise minimum wage, there's a lot of it in circulation, therefore it's not worth anything. So the less available something is, the more it's worth. So like,
well, and that goes along with farming too, with the supply and demand. You know, like
everything.
you're saying, you know, some of these crops, you know, like for instance peanuts. And I don't know, I know you follow this better, but we don't.
Peanuts don't go on supply demand. Peanuts and sugar beets are the two facets of agriculture. They're not controlled by supply and demand.
Okay.
Peanuts and sugar beets are controlled strictly by gangsters. Strictly.
Okay.
It is totally.
We're going political.
So those two businesses are not traded publicly.
Okay. Oh, okay. I get
so
what
like
you're saying.
corn is a worldwide grown commodity.
Okay.
It is traded on the world markets.
Okay.
How much corn they grow in China or Brazil affects the price in Fort Gaines, Georgia.
Okay.
You can go on the stock market and you can look at the price of corn every day.
Yeah.
Peanuts ain't listed. Neither is sugar beets. It's
Wow.
not a publicly traded commodity.
That's right.
It is controlled by just a handful of people. The peanut business is a little larger than the sugar beet business. The sugar beet business, they actually call it the sugar beet mafia.
Really?
That's a public name for the business.
Really?
Peanuts is not quite as bad, but if you talk to people in the peanut industry, not the growers, but the people one step above the growers, so the local buyers, they're like, yeah, this is the most gangster thing you've ever seen.
Wow.
It's just, they'll look at not supply demand, they'll look at, hey, the farmers aren't making any money on cotton or corn, so we don't have to give them anything for peanuts.
Okay. Okay.
Because
I see.
They're already not making money. Now, if they're making money on cotton and corn, we'll have to entice them. So we give them a little bit more for their peanuts. They don't base it on the demand at all.
So tell me about the sugar beet, because I'm not following you on sugar beets. I mean, is that a beet or is it sugar?
Well, so the sugar we consume either comes in the form of corn, which we grow all over the country.
Sure.
So that'd be high fructose corn syrup.
Okay.
Sugar cane, grown in Florida, grown in Louisiana.
Yeah. I know you have to.
Some other areas.
You know, like Dr. Pepper, you know, and it'll say on there grown sugar cane, you know, but we all think it's better. You know?
A lot of the sugar comes from sugar beets, which is grown up like in the Dakotas.
Okay.
Grown up Montana, up in that part of the country.
Okay. Wow. You know, I'm talking with Patrick, his knowledge, you know, the farming industry and that kind of thing. But there's other situations that seem odd to me, because Patrick here as a farmer is getting low prices, but when I go to the grocery store, it's the highest prices that I've ever seen. You know, whenever I look at things like bread and milk and eggs and things that I used to get for one price. Let me clarify. When my wife goes to the store, Patrick knows I don't shop a whole lot. My wife goes to the store, it's more money. So our grocery bill has gone up, but it's odd to me that the commodities I'm purchasing there have gone down in price. Right. But is that because of equipment costs, labor, all those things? I mean, why? No, I mean, how does that work?
We've gotten further from farm to end consumer. That distance has grown. Okay, that's just one part of it. But,
right. Yeah.
You know,
like you're straight, like out of the field to your. He has a little store down here that he sells, you know, fresh vegetables from. So he's like farm to your hands. You know, and that's few people in between.
That's right.
But
and I deal with a few wholesalers, but a lot of it is direct retail from my field. But like with peanuts and cotton and corn, cotton, if you grow cotton right out here, you may sell to early gen, and then early gen to staple cotton, and then staple cotton to someone that are making the fabric, and then them to Wrangler, and then Wrangler to store, and then a store,
or probably to a distributor,
and then to
then
a
distributor
store,
to
and
a
then a store
retail
to a
store.
person. So there's too
Exactly.
many middle people, and all those
There's a
middle
lot of-
people have expanded their share,
That's right.
their margins
Yeah.
to keep up with times, to say, hey, well, we got to pay our workers $20 an hour now, so they've expanded their margins,
Yeah.
which they had to cut it somewhere, so they cut it right here.
Yeah.
They expanded on your end and they cut it right here. So the end product went up, the raw good went down, and the middle expanded.
Well, I don't know how you fix it. I don't know if it means electing a different, senator or president or whatever. I just know that we're in a different economy than we were even, 6, 8, 10 years ago.
One thing, it doesn't matter what I've seen, which president is in office, which party. The government has gotten so big that one person typically doesn't make a difference. I ain't saying they can't.
Right.
But,
I know, I agree.
But for example, the USDA is a huge part of the government, and the USDA directly impacts our prices once a month with a report they call the WAS. They put out the WAS once a month, and it's a prediction of where they think yields are going to be at. And so they can manipulate the price of corn up or down by that report. They say, hey, we're going to have so many million bushels of corn over last year, and the price of corn will fall through the floor. Or they'll say, hey, we're not going to have enough corn, and the price of corn will shoot up.
Yeah.
And so every year, especially election years, they put out WAs that are wildly inaccurate, and it drops the price of corn. That's not Democrat or Republican. That's every election year.
Sure.
They put out these reports, hey, corn is way more corn we ever had, and that makes the corn price fall out through the floor.
Right.
And what that subsequently does is bring down the price of gas.
Yeah, I understand.
Because corn makes ethanol. Ethanol's in the gas. They drop the price of gas. Say, hey, gas is coming down.
So just in my opinion, it sounds like even in yours, this is not kind of one of those things where I think if we just elect Trump or elect Kamala, we're going to fix everything. I think that we're in deep, and it's going to be there's just going to be a lot of things we have to do to get back to the economy we want here in America, at least for us. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to make this a wrap. I'm going to hang around with Patrick here for a little bit more time and see if I can help him put this pulley on. But, if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and call it an evening. Also, I'd like for y'all to, send some comments about what you think about this video, as well as the content of the video and what your opinions are, but also what you think about tailgate time, because I wouldn't mind having some tailgate time more on my channel to just talk about issues and all. But I'm gonna call it a wrap. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.